He's heating up!
They are the titans of modern mythology: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. For over 80 years, DC Comics has defined the superhero. They were the first, the archetypes, the gods among mortals, but being first doesn't always mean staying on top. DC Comics' journey is a story of groundbreaking success and baffling missteps, a marketing history defined by its own incredible legacy. How did the undisputed king of comics find itself in a perpetual race for the top spot? What's up, everybody? I'm X. I run Perspective Reports, and today we're breaking down the marketing histories of DC and Marvel Comics. And in celebration of the Superman movie, we are simply looking at the best and worst strategies that defined these massive comic titans into the modern era and how they have been able to continue and sustain their success. After all, the fact that everybody knows who Superman, Iron Man, the Avengers, Batman, so many other superheroes that define and still to this day influence so many of us. So let's jump into it. We're going to have a little bit of fun. This is part of our wider series where we're going to take marketing history deep dives into various topics, and we're starting with DC Comics versus Marvel. Let's get into it. Also, we have our topics and reports hub on our website, perspectivereports.com. Check it out. The beta is ready and live. Would love to get your feedback. And so let's begin. Remember, Perspective Reports, your world strategized. We break down relevant topics that matter to you, and we come up with strategies, solutions that we believe will allow opportunities to grow. So join us, come on this journey. We got a lot of great things coming.
Up next, more
Perspective Reports
on Nick. Fantastic.
It all started with Action Comics #1 in 1938. The arrival of Superman wasn't just a new character, it was the birth of a genre and a marketing masterstroke, and a new dawn for a modern take on American optimism. Which leads us to best strategy #1, the archetype advantage. DC didn't just create characters, it created ideals. Superman was hope, Batman was justice, and Wonder Woman was truth. This foundational, almost mythic branding made them instantly recognizable and timeless. They were marketed not just as action heroes, but as moral paragons for America. This led to early dominance in licensing. By the 1940s, Superman had a radio show, animated shorts, and a balloon in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. DC Comics established its characters as cultural icons, moving them beyond the page long before anyone else. The Silver Age in the late 50s and 1960s doubled down on this, introducing sci-fi concepts and expanding the pantheon with characters like The Flash and Green Lantern. The strategy was clear. DC was the established universe, the reliable home of heroes. But as the world changed, DC's godlike heroes began to feel distant. Marvel Comics had burst onto the scene with flawed, relatable characters, and DC's squeaky clean image suddenly felt dated. This is where the cracks began to show, which leads us to the worst strategy #1, creative stagnation and reactive storytelling. For years, DC was accused of being creatively conservative, while Marvel was tackling real-world issues. DC was often stuck in fantastical, kid-friendly tales. Their attempts to get serious in the Bronze Age felt reactive rather than innovative. They were following a trend, not setting one. The solution DC Comics came up with to address all these issues, in hindsight, can be seen as radical. In 1985, Crisis on Infinite Earths rebooted their entire universe, which leads us to best strategy #2, the universe-shattering event. Infinite Crisis was a brilliant, if risky, marketing move. It created a massive sales spike, generated immense buzz, and streamlined decades of confusing continuity. It established the event comic as a blockbuster sales driver, a strategy DC would return to again and again. It was a declaration that their universe mattered and the stakes were higher than ever. In the modern era, DC's greatest marketing successes came from outside the comic shop. Tim Burton's Batman in 1989 proved the mainstream appetite for serious superhero films. Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy took it to another level, achieving critical and commercial acclaim, which leads us to best strategy #3, prestige, standalone storytelling. DC found immense success by allowing visionary creators to tell dark, mature, and standalone stories. The Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen, and Nolan's films were marketed as prestige events, not just comic book movies. This positioned DC as the home of sophisticated adult-oriented superhero narratives. However, their attempt to replicate Marvel's interconnected film universe, the DC Extended Universe, was a different story, which leads us to worst strategy number 2 and 3. With number 2 being the rushed cinematic universe. Where Marvel spent years building to the Avengers, the DC Extended Universe felt rushed and tonally inconsistent. It was a clear attempt to chase a competitor's success, and the marketing suffered because of that. Trailers were grim, the tone was confusing, and it alienated audiences who wanted the hope and optimism inherent in characters like Superman. And the felt loss of this optimism leads us to worst strategy number 3, which is inconsistent brand identity. Is DC the dark, gritty universe of the Joker and the Batman, or the bright, hopeful world of Shazam and Wonder Woman, or somewhere in the middle with the Suicide Squad? The answer is all of the above. This lack of a cohesive, overarching brand identity in its mainstream marketing has created confusion and made it difficult to build the same kind of loyal and all-encompassing fan base that its rival enjoys. Not that it doesn't exist, but it's just not as, let's say, virulent.